the other thing that occurs to me in terms of like, you see this level of criminality with like a guy like Manafort. You see this level of criminality with Trump and all the people around him, and you have to start asking the question like, how the fuck did he not have any legal problems for the past 25 years in New York City? With, take the most cynical and jaundiced perspective. Every guy in the Southern District of New York, U.S. Attorney's Office, every gal in the Eastern District of New York of the U.S. Attorney's Office, the state attorney general, the city DA, like, okay, Vance gets $20,000, $25,000. That's a lot, I guess, but it's not like taking down Donald Trump wouldn't be worth that in terms of your political career.
Seriously.
Like, I think, and, it's the end of the year and I'm drinking, I can afford to be a little conspiratorial. I think that Donald Trump may have been, probably unwittingly, sort of a little bit protected.
Yeah.
Because of all the information they may have been getting from Felix Seder.
Right.
And that's why this guy's floated through life like, I can't do anything.
I'm untouchable.
I'm so smart.
They
learned
about every single
catch
new
me.
cartel in New York City. Just like, oh yeah, Trump's having a meeting with some new guys from Panama. There's probably an entire new criminal syndicate we didn't know about. We got all of our information on after this idiot sits with them.
We know
for 40
Felix
minutes.
Seder is a CIA, FBI asset.
Yeah,
they have
exactly.
testified. This is public knowledge.
Yeah.
And the way that they've been getting information from him is mostly because he's been money laundering, maybe squaring some other like arms deals. Well, he's got to money launder somewhere too, right? And that's Trump. And so they don't want Trump's business to be ruined because he's a repository for criminal activity.
Yeah.
They dip in. Seder's, New York FBI's office, Whitey Bulger, they dip in. They dip in every now and then, like you get 3 for you, 1 for us. And, we don't, and anybody who sniffs around Donald Trump gets like.
No, yeah.
I mean, that's the only explanation.
No,
for
I don't
this,
know.
right?
I don't know how else you explain how, so he can survive people like how did he survive the political ambition of Elliot Spitzer?
Exactly. Exactly.
How did that
exactly.
happen?
Exactly. And all the other
And
Elliot Spitzers out there.
Yeah, every other
Because
wannabe
this guy's
Or was it because
walking-
he was considered a joke at that time? I
Yeah,
mean,
but he could be a Jew, but all
but they
the-
would still,
all the
as soon as he came out and said Obama wasn't born here, would be the time that they should.
That would have been
let's
when
just
you've
stick
been
this
like,
guy in jail.
Hey, have you guys looked into this foundation at all?
Right.
Have you?
Like, that like obnoxious rich reality guy. Let's
Look
finally
at
go after
the
his
foundation
rampant
stuff.
criminal
I mean,
activity.
the idea that there was never a complaint lodged about this guy, that nobody ever thought like, I'm ambitious, I'm going to go after it, and nobody did it.
Yeah.
That just seems
Well, you know what?
impossible
It's
to me.
the Donnie Deutsch thing. Donnie Deutsch a week or two ago said, and I get, and he's one of these guys who I think was quite buddy with Trump. He went on this whole thing that got clipped around all of these places that we look at for sound. And I didn't, because it's Donnie Deutsch, I don't want to use it. But he was like, this, becoming president's his undoing. And everybody knows that this whole thing has been a criminal enterprise. And if you knew New York real estate, his whole organization is dirty. And it's like, okay, so wait a second. You knew for decades while you were hobnobbing. I mean, this is the media version of that, but it's kind of like the same principle. It's like it was an open secret that this guy's a criminal.
Well, I can understand why,
No, I know media is different, but it's speaking to
but-
your point
but
of like.
it's hard
it
to
seems like-
imagine
yeah,
that
right.
nobody touched this because it's also like maybe it's his money, but I don't
he
know.
doesn't have real money.
And it is not hard to run into people who are like, oh yeah, my cousin, he does electrical contracting out in Queens. He got screwed by Trump.
Yeah.
Everybody seems to have a story.
Seriously.
Like Andy Kindler, I think he's like
Andy Kindler had a
yeah,
story.
like that or his guy.
Yeah, it was somebody close to him.
Just
I don't
anybody
remember
random.
who, but it was like just.
I find that very strange. But if it is the case, all right, just look, saying this with complete candor that it's like sort of this is very speculative and
Right.
just sitting around, and this is not a normal show, and so I don't feel like we need to maintain the same. But if that is the case, that means that Mueller's project is probably protecting that part of the story as much as revealing anything else.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And that makes the investigation that much harder, right? It's like that thing, like we found a gun on him, but we didn't have a warrant. So now we got to go back and build some other story as to how we got
how we got in. Right. Exactly. Yeah. I mean, that's I hadn't even really considered that, but it seems like it would explain some of the. I mean, because all the time you're thinking like, why were these obvious threads not pulled on? And that, I guess that would be an explanation for it, where like the things that we know through reporting, that you're like, that seems like a straightforward felony,
right?
And like no one tugged on that at any point.
Even all the contacts that Trump had prior to sort of it being about collusion.
Yeah.
Just like
what looks to us
with
like
mafiosos,
what looks to some now as collusion could very well be, there are agencies that just use him as like bait, honestly, and just like, let's see who nibbles at him, and this is a way for us to track. And this guy's such a fucking egotistical moron, who was bequeathed, that story in the Times that came out about their tax corruption. I mean, the opportunity that I feel like that's being lost in this moment is that it's not that, even aside from my wild, conspiracy theory, there's no doubt in my mind that virtually that 75% of the families that have several hundred millions of dollars do the exact same thing that Fred Trump did to get money to their kids. They build, shell companies. There was a report about, Ivanka and, Javanka are going to, like 2 weeks ago, they're going to, it's illegal to capitalize on tax proposals that you propose. And of course, that's, but the tax proposals themselves are like, hey, this is scandalous.
Yeah.
This is legal. Mm-hmm. It's scandalous. I mean, the whole tax system, and none of it, it seems like there's a big opportunity that's being missed by everyone to sort of say, like, we're getting a window into what's actually what is, even if, whether you're...
Is this where you have to put on be a good dirtbag socialist and be like, clear? I mean, that's the dividing line, I think, between people who are like, we need to get rid of Trump and we need to get rid of the conditions around Trump, and a politics of this guy's so horrible, this guy's so horrible, this guy's so horrible, and then let's get back to normal.
But it almost feels like neither camp is putting putting it together. Like,
really? I don't know.
I mean, I think in a general way, you hear the left say, this is what's wrong with America. But it's not, I feel like it's not, there's nobody out there doing the sort of the reportorial work that says, like, this is not sui generis.
Yeah, maybe not. Yeah. But even like a guy like Anand Giadardis, who had a great thread on, no, this is actually very normal behavior. Trump just did it in a typically stupid way. I think it is out there.
Yeah.
Among people who want to take a more systemic look on it. I would love to, if this is true, to watch Trump all of a sudden flip into like, yeah, for years I was just exposing crime, just working deep cover. It was hard to be. These people, disgusting people, terrible people.
Trump coming out as a deep state operative himself would be an incredible twist.
That's the twist. Yes.
Can I please take off this horrible fake wig and get back to using my real head of hair?
Or it would be like as if Robert Mueller actually is going to expose all of this in like a mass exposure of the global oligarchy. And he was just like, like every innocent Muslim teen I put in jail in an entrapment case, I knew I was working towards something.
Yeah, exactly.
And finally, as the whole global Davos elite and the Trump organization get put in cuffs, I realized why I had to put that underdeveloped Chechen kid in jail for a fake terrorism
plot.
Is
where we do.
It was hard, but it was worth it.
This is where we do the crossover episode with Bill Mitchell, right? And all the QAnon people who think that. All right. Well, I mean, so The question is there going to be enough overwhelming evidence of like sort of this like deep corruption, or if there's a politician who's going to emerge anywhere who is going to start to sort of say like, I mean, that's my biggest lament this year in terms of politics, in terms of who did not get elected, was Zephyr Teachout.
Oh, I think. Oh my God.
Because I feel like Zephyr Teachout would have been that figure to sort of say like, here are the Trump crimes, and here's also actually like Ken Langone's been doing the same shit here,
Yeah.
and so hasn't Andrew Cuomo. And I don't know. I just said Ken Langone just as an example, not in one that is not in one that. But I'm saying a Ken Langone type.
No, Ken Langone might be super scrupulous.
Yes, it's very possible.
Yeah, oh yeah, it's totally
but I'm saying
possible, yeah.
a very wealthy scion.
Yeah, I mean, again, this is a very, very vulgar Marxist take, but it does still feel like the party is like too much made up of people who hobnob with these people for someone to make that case, basically. That like what we're seeing is a window into how these people have been screwing all the rest of us for years and years. And I mean, Sanders has a version of that, but it's like the sort of the version where it's like millionaires and billionaires have too much money, and not the version where it's like, here are the specific things they're doing to perpetuate their power.
And I think like even the Sanders critique is not, there's just still not like sort of like there, and I understand it. You have to because of the political moment, and certainly like let's talk about just like what happened in the midterms. I mean, for all of the don't run against Donald Trump stuff, and certainly the Democrats out there, as far as I can tell, from every like reporter I trust who was out covering these things, they ran a lot on on basically some version of improve the Affordable Care Act or Medicare for all or something like that, or infrastructure. I never heard one reporter. The only people I heard saying the Democrats are running too much against Trump were basically commentators who had no idea.
Just Washington commentators and not campaign reporters.
Yeah, like Ralph Nader.
The American people are worried about welfare reform. So don't make it personal.
All the
about
reporters
Trump.
said, all the reporting from the districts were like they're running on Medicare. But with all that said, it was Trump who drove people to the polls in record numbers. It wasn't, and so I understand the desire to make it just about Trump because it has real political leverage. But I've yet to see anybody say like, hey, this criminality is like, this seems to be the way that things work.
Yeah. Like again, there's this thing that you were mentioning where commentators are like, well, this is what happens when you let New York real estate into Washington. It's because this is just how things work. And it's like, well, why haven't you been telling me that for the past 10 years? But then, you hear stuff like you remember that Ivanka and Chelsea Clinton used to be friends, like literal friends who hung out. Yep. And then like the second Trump is elected, Ivanka is in some way like involved in setting absurd prices for rooms at the Trump Hotel for the like inauguration that they raised more money than anyone has ever raised for reasons that are unknown.
And the type of person we're talking about, the type of pundit we're talking about, was still saying like, oh, I think Ivanka she's going to try because she's friends with Chelsea Clinton and she cares about the environment. I mean, these people, they're such a broad, even just delusional, even if you don't even want to go into immoral.
A lot of it is denial. I think a lot
denial,
of it is
delusion, and just insularity.
So that's one end of the spectrum is that, the sort of that's ongoing story of the criminality. I think even if you discount the sort of international intrigue aspects of it, it's still like just shocking that this dude like.
I just love we didn't even know that this particular crew of Hong Kong heroin traffickers existed until like, hey guys, it's Fat Chow. It's Fat Chow. It's my new friend from meeting in Soho. Come on. I'll tell you what, best Asian whores ever. They just like discover these entirely new criminal networks.
Like you have a young kid, not quite fully conversant, but when I talk to my 13-year-old and my 5.5-year-old who's like, Trump is mean, and my 13-year-old is just like, the guy's a fucking asshole. And it's like, oh yeah, this is the president of the United States. Like, there's no, like I already raised you,